First, I would like to thank the wonderful people who organized the Palästina Conference here in Berlin, especially in the face of incredible state repression. Eventually they closed us, but the effort to make this conference in Berlin, in the capital city of Germany, incredibly important and commendable. Comrades, the last 6.5 months have been incredibly hard on all of us. Seeing the genocide unfold on our social media feeds and TV screens had made many of us question the very nature of humanity. But obviously it had been especially hard on Palestinians, both in the diaspora and in Palestine. I can't imagine how these months have been for you, and I want to start by saying we all have a moral obligation towards all of you to be in solidarity, to scream your pain, your resistance, your insistence to continue to exist. I also want to say your courage and resilience are an example for all of us. Comrades, as we are already well into the 7th month of this genocidal wave, we must all recognize that we have failed to stop it so far. And for the many hundreds of thousands of dead, wounded and orphaned, we are already too late. Time and time again, many of us are asking, how can they do this? How can an Israeli sniper aim and shoot at a child's head? How can a fighter pilot drop a bomb on a hospital? How can dancing teenagers block the very few aid trucks trying to reach Gaza? The answer is through a long process of dehumanization and settler colonialism. Genocide isn't the product of one man's vile racist hate. It is not merely the result of tactical political decision. It is the culmination of a long process. It is the result of colonial culture. It is the peak of a mountain that is being climbed for over 150 years. And in the case of Palestine, it is also the result of a calculated political strategy of those who feel and know they are actually losing their grip. The army of the Zionist entity had in 2018 published numbers that mean between the river and the sea, there are already more Palestinians than Jewish Israelis. The long-feared democratic threat had become a reality, and the current wave of genocide comes in this context. That is why the Zionist entity had taken upon itself this project of annihilation. Zionism always aspires for less Palestinians on less land and more Jews on more land. But this time is different. It is even more cruel in nature and numbers than what we have ever seen before. This time, Israeli politicians, journalists and military leaders speak of a new independence war. They smell the end of their so-called villa in the jungle. And it is not only the so-called extremists who demand the army marches on, because the so-called opposition is just as bad. Even some Haaretz journalists are taking an active role in spreading genocidal hate, saying, for example, that Gaza has no innocent people, or that Gaza's Palestinians should be deported to the West Bank as a humanitarian solution. The same opposition that had taken to the streets, supposedly to protect democracy, is silent when more than 2% of the population of Gaza had been murdered. Even smaller groups that have before paid lip service to the word peace are now at best silent. Only a tiny minority speaks up. Horror had gripped the Holy Land. Victims lose life and perpetrators shed their humanity. But, comrades, as we said before, this genocide does not stand alone. It is a wave in a long series of violent waves. It is by far the most violent, murderous wave, and it is also a sign the Zionist experiment in Palestine is nearing its end. It is a sign, and it is also a catalyst. Gaza is already ruined, that it would take many years to make it fit for humans again. This puts the right of return as the only legal and moral solution to the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. The Zionist entity is on the brink of a weapons embargo if the ICJ does its job. And the internal contradictions within its own society are only growing. Some in the Zionist media have started to openly say they are losing the war despite the enormous numbers of deaths and the total destruction of Gaza. So comrades, rich and powerful colonial powers like Germany may scream and shout. They may try to shut us up. They can send, and they have sent, uniformed police and public prosecutors at us. But history will not stop for them. They have placed their bets on the Zionist experiment, hoping to use Israel as a military base / embassy in the Middle East. But now it is exposing their hypocrisy, using the language of human rights only when it serves them. They have hoped Palestine would be a far away, small country, occupied and beaten. But now it is a galvanizing issue for all people from the post-colonial world, demonstrating and resisting, not only there, but also here in Europe, the birthplace of modern racism. They have hoped that Israel will stabilize their grip on global power, but they now hear our slogans in every city, town and village in the world. For the victims, every victory would be too late, but that cannot deter us. It should compel us to work even harder. For he who had saved a soul in the world had saved the whole world. Comrades, as we are here today, we are promising to continue resisting. We are promising to continue to be in solidarity, promising to never let go until liberation. And to the German state that stopped our conference, I want to be clear about this, about one point. You do not support the genocide because of guilt, like you claimed at the ICJ. Because those who are burdened with the weight of history learn from it and resist genocide. No, you support genocide because you are racists. Because you are racists. Because you also dehumanize Palestinians and Jews. Because you center European white supremacy over universal human rights. And we are saying now today to you, we know you are listening. We are telling you that genocide can never win. Even just the fact that in this demonstration in the capital city of Germany there are so many Jewish people is an illustration of that. Genocide can never win. And after genocide comes liberation. And the liberation of Palestine would be the beginning of the end of a world order that has put slave abusers and planet destroyers in castles and palaces. And we will remind you eventually which side you took. We will never let you forget. Free Palestine.